the builder, I laid the foundation.
All right, shalom, guys. Welcome to part 2 of this debate review that Tavish was doing concerning the title, Did Jesus Claim to Be God? I got, of course, Tavish with me. Tavish from the Heretic, Jesse from Let the Bible Speak, and then Jared, Refining Exegetics.
Yo.
Exegetics, I think.
Yes, yeah. It is exegetics.
Okay, so I'm the only person that pronounced it right the first time. Then okay, I'm used to everyone else pronouncing it wrong, so I just assumed I was. But what's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Oh, I'm doing amazing, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, man. I mean, this was a good little debate, especially it's your second one. I'm glad we got it on the tube. Because I don't know, I'm not a big fan of like doing debates unless it's on YouTube. I just feel like it's just flows better, everything like that. But today we're going to be going over the rebuttals. If you guys can go watch part 1, where we kind of hear the opening statements, kind of going over everything like that. One of the things that because I was listening to it again, and it was so. It's kind of wild to me because one of the things the guy Apology Not Included, he kept pushing was, guys, Jesus receives worship. And I feel like that's just such a rookie mistake there. It's just such a rookie mistake. So I don't know if it's just he's just being like straight up just, oh yeah, he receives worship, right? It's the proskuneo in the Greek. You look up any Septuagint, Moses gives proskuneo to Jethro. Everyone gives everyone proskuneo. It's nothing special about it. So it was just kind of weird with that. I'm assuming he knows that. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So I don't know if this was just kind of something to.
I mean, I'm sure if I pushed him on that, he would probably resort to palach in Daniel 7, where the Son of Man receives palach, which is also translated as lutreo in the Septuagint.
But that's a textual variant.
Is it? I don't know.
Jesse, yeah. See, that's the thing too.
Lutreo is the old Greek. Lutreo is the old Greek. They abandoned it because it wasn't a literal translation. A lot of the translations were like paraphrase translations. So I forget what the guy's name. He made a new translation, and that's the one that we use today. Can't remember his name though.
Yeah,
starts with a T. Thinking like Thomas or something like that. I can't remember.
Tommy.
You're like,
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
hey, hold on real quick though. Check out that Aramaic word and verse. What is it? 14. As well as 27, but only 14 is translated as latreo, not 27. Why is that? Because 27 is actually people.
Is it applied to the saints of the Most High?
Yeah, because in Hebrew is a singular collective noun, just like I think it's laos in Greek is a singular collective noun. Means it's a group of people.
Also, too, I keep forgetting the verse. Jesse, you might actually know where it's at. I believe Israel receives latreia or something like that. Like latreia is being used for. I don't want to say it because I want to have the actual verse instead of just kind of saying. But yeah, let's go ahead and go into the rebuttals now, and then you guys know the drill. When Apology says something interesting, let me know and I can pause it.
What to do is move to 10-minute rebuttals. Apology Not Included. Your time will begin as soon as your statement begins to commence.
All right, you'll recall in my opening statement that I said that I was here to defend 2 contentions. First, Jesus claimed divine identity through his words, actions, authority, and his application of Old Testament imagery reserved for Yahweh. The second one was Jesus' contemporaries understood these claims as divine claims, explaining the repeated accusations of blasphemy throughout the Gospels. Let us start with addressing my first contention. My opponent Tavish repeatedly confuses personal distinction with ontological exclusion. He has established that Jesus is not the Father, but I never argued that Jesus is the Father, because he's saying that they must be the same God, basically, because it's one God.
I explicitly said in my opening that I'm not arguing that he's claiming that Jesus is the Father. I said in my second point, like, I know that you're going to say that I'm claiming that Jesus is the Father, or you think that, but that's not my claim. My contention is that Jesus is not God, and they're differentiated. And then he just goes on and says, oh, all he proved was that Jesus isn't the Father. It's like, oh my gosh.
And see, kind of that's one of the disingenuous things I feel like when you do talk to Trinitarians, because I feel like one of their safety nets is what they'll do is they'll simply just say like, well, you actually don't understand the Trinity. That's why you don't consider yourself a Trinitarian. It's like, no. We understand it. They're three persons versus the one being. So when you guys say that we only have one God, what you're referring to is you're referring to the one being of God. But when you say the one being of God, you're saying that one being consists of three persons, and then you'll kind of use the whole echad, cluster of grapes, everything like that. But specifically, you'll be using the homoousios, which was invented later on. So we understand it. We just think that there's a better way to explain it. Like Jesus is the apostle of the Father. And if you're the apostle or the sent one, you basically, the agent acts as the principal. I think all of us on the panel will say that is a better explanation of understanding the relationship between the Messiah and God. And that fixes a lot of the problems of Jesus not knowing the day or the hour, Jesus being limited, Jesus receiving power and authority, Jesus dying. A lot of those attributes, God cannot possess because he is God. But it would make sense then if there was one anointed person who was given these properties who basically represents God, right? Because Jesus does represent God, and it's part of that, to where if you were to spit in Jesus's face, somebody could say that you spit in God's face, not being literal. And we can even tie this back to like Acts 9 when Jesus says to Paul, "Why are you persecuting me?" Paul would never persecuted Jesus. He persecuted the apostles. But again, when you are an apostle, it's as if you are the principal. And that whole thing ties together. And the same thing with the apostles to Jesus and Jesus to the Father. So Jesus could act as God, everything that the Father would do, like Jesus actually does. We understand that. But it's that whole ontological nature, essence, homoousios problem that Trinitarians have kind of like pushed together that we would disagree with.
I think we should really pinpoint precisely what it is that Apology Not Included is doing in his framing right here. As a biblical Unitarian, you can state 1,000 times in your opening statement that you're arguing that Jesus is distinct from God. Not the Father, but God. And a person like Apology will simply presume the biblical Unitarian position that, well, we believe that the Father alone is God. So therefore, you're really essentially arguing that Jesus is distinct from the Father. That's the game that he plays. Is we state that Jesus is distinct from God. That's the argument that you made, you stated, Tavish, in your opening statement. And what Apology has to do is like, well, but you believe the Father alone is God. Well, we believe, of course we believe that Jesus is distinct from the Father. We just believe that he's another person within the God. It's like, that's the stupid game that they have to play. So it's precisely what they're doing.
Yeah, he's basically admitting that in every single passage that I gave where God is talked about, it's actually just the Father. So he's actually admitting that the overwhelming majority of the time when God is referenced, it's just the Father. So he is like basically admitting my position.
Yeah.
Because to be clear, any passage that differentiated just the Father from Jesus or the Son, I didn't use. I only used passages that distinguished God, the word God, and Jesus. So anywhere that, if he's just going to claim, oh, well, all you proved is that the Father and Son are different, well, okay, then you just think the Father is God.
Yep. That's what I meant by presuming our position. And borrowing from our position, but then trying to throw a smokescreen up.
Hey, Tavish, I should have asked you this probably in like the very first thing of the first episode, but it just randomly came to me. Who do you think was a harder opponent, or what opponent do you think gave you a harder time to basically destroy their position? Was it this person, Apology, or MJ, your first debate?
Definitely this guy. And mostly because MJ did not stick to the debate title. He just went completely out of mark, which is what the debate was on. So to me, he completely lost in his opening statement because he didn't even use mark really at all. So Apology did actually, made a case from Jesus's actual claims. And I mean, even in the rest of the debate, in the first debate, I didn't feel very pressed at all. Like I just thought the things that he was trying to prove were like completely irrelevant. So even if he proved his points in his cross-exam and whatever, they were completely irrelevant and they didn't help him at all. And in his answers to my questions, he just straight up said, yes, I believe in contradictions. I was like, okay, well, there we go. Like, what more is there for me to do?
Okay, I was just curious.
Therefore, Jesus is also God, so therefore he must be the Father. The question is whether Jesus shares the divine identity that belongs to the Father. When he says that the Father sends and Jesus is sent, and that the Father gives and Jesus receives, he establishes a relational distinction. My position already affirms this. He has not established that Jesus is merely a creature or excluded from the divine nature. Receiving authority from the Father does not by itself determine the nature of the one who receives it. He cites John 17:3, where Jesus identifies the Father as the only true God. But the word monon, meaning only, modifies the appositional phrase, the only true God. It does not directly modify say, meaning you. The verse does not say only you or you only are the true God. If it did, Tavish would have a point. I am not claiming that grammar alone proves Jesus' divinity. I am showing that Tavish has inserted an exclusion the grammar does not explicitly contain.
Pause.
Yeah, pause.
You're muted, Will.
I was just going to say, I already saw you, Jesse.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. Greek Grammar Beyond the Basics, page 48, explains an apposition is like a convertible proposition and tells you the differences. The convertible proposition asserts something about the referent, and the apposition assumes it. That's the only difference. Page 41 tells you the convertible proposition, the numerical, the equation A equals B and B equals A can be used. What he's reading is a subset proposition, which is basically saying the only true God is a subset category that three persons can be in. If it weren't for the apposition reflecting a convertible, he might have a point, but the fact is he's not reflecting what the grammar is saying. That's all.
Yeah, it's so funny to me because my first conversation that I ever had with him on TikTok, I brought up John 17:3, and before I could even get out my argument, he was like, well, only refers to the true God, not you. And I was like, okay, that's not my argument. Just calm down. Let me get my argument out. And then I gave him the argument I gave in my opening, which is that And he even admitted right there that Jesus identifies the Father as the only true God, meaning they're identical. They're the same person. If the Father is one person and he's identical to the only true God, that means the only true God is one person and they're the same person. That's it. Like that, game over. Have a nice day. Goodbye. And I've explained this argument to him like probably at least 3 times, and he still doesn't seem to understand it, because all he does is go, well, there's not an exclusionary phrase. Like, by the very nature of identity, it does exclude everyone else, unless you want to say that Jesus is identical to the one true God, which means he's identical to the Father, and you don't believe that. So there is an exclusionary phrase. I mean, the exclusionariness is baked into the identity claim, and he doesn't understand that.
Yeah, that's right. What I would add here is that notice that the debate question is, does Jesus claim to be God? Now, if you're taking the affirmative in this type of debate, you would be trying to prove that Jesus is making statements to the effect that he's God. I mean, that's just bare bones simple. But what he's actually doing, and I believe what he does with the majority of his time, is actually wait for Tavish to draw out scriptures which disprove that, only to respond and say, well, that doesn't really exclude Jesus from being God.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing here in John 17:3. That's what he does in John 5. That's what he does with this Jesus receiving glory and authority and stuff like that. That's relational. It doesn't exclude Jesus from being God. That is not the debate question. The debate question is, does Jesus claim to be God? And you're not doing your job here. You're waiting for Tavish to bring up passage, and then you're saying, well, I mean, the Trinity doctrine doesn't exclude that.
Yeah.
Because verse 5 then records Jesus asking the Father to restore the glory he possessed alongside him before the world existed. Tavish just must explain both verses together. The same applies to John 20, verse 17, where Jesus calls the Father my God and your God. 11 verses later, Thomas addresses Jesus directly as my Lord and my God. Jesus accepts this confession. Tavish lets verse 17 control verse 28 while refusing to let verse 28 inform verse 17. He then cites John 5, where Jesus says he can do nothing from himself. But the immediate context says, whatever the Son does, the Son.
Can you pause for a sec? I'll be brief. So he lets verse 17 control verse 28 instead of verse 28 control verse 17. Let's walk him out in his shoes. Thomas says, "You're my God, Jesus." Jesus says, "I ascend to my Father and your Father." Jesus is the Father. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah. That's actually, wow. Yeah, that's actually I never thought about that. That's a really good point. Because if we're going to say that Jesus is the Father, or Jesus is God, based off of 17 to 28, we're going to make that equivocation, then Jesus would be a father, and that would be modalism. You know what, too? When you listen to a Trinitarian long enough, they will commit some sort of heresy, whether it's what's it called? Partialism, modalism. They will make some sort of heretical statement that technically would go against the Trinity. But yeah.
Does the Son does likewise. Jesus then claims authority to give life to whomever he wills and to judge humanity, so that everyone will honor the Son just as they honor the Father. No ordinary agent claims to perform whatever God performs or receive the same honor as Yahweh. The Son can do nothing from himself, therefore.
Quick thought here, or quick comment here. John 5:19 does not have Jesus saying, "I do whatsoever the Father does." That's he doesn't make some type of totality statement like that. That's actually not what he's saying. He opens it with saying, "The Son can do nothing except what he sees the Father do." So already what the Father is doing here is that Jesus is referring to is already categorized or limited by what the Son sees the Father doing. In other words, what the Father reveals to the Son that he's doing. This isn't a totality statement. That not even in the grammar can get that, much less the context. So it's sort of a weird statement to make. I mean, it's being loosey-goosey text, hoping that nobody catches that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, I wish I might have made this point in the debate, but to me, where it says that they honor the Son as they honor the Father, that to me is explicit agency language. Like they are meant to honor the Son as if he were the Father or as if he were God, because he's God's agent.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and then Tavish, even with that, I believe it's Luke chapter 10, verse 16. It might be 18. But Jesus even says, if they reject you, referring to the apostles, they reject me. And if they reject me, they reject the one who sent me. So in layman's terms, guys, if you reject Peter, you reject Jesus and you reject God. Okay. It doesn't mean Peter is ontologically God, the essence of God, the nature of God. It's this role of agency, because Peter is an apostle of Jesus and Jesus is an apostle to God. So it's through that line. Like, I don't know how much more like clear it can be. Nobody out there believes that Peter, James, or John, or Matthew is God, ontologic, essence, whatever. Nobody says that. But then they're going to special plead and say, but Jesus is.
And the adverb, just as the Greek adverb kathos, is an adverb of correspondence. So the two verbs, the honoring of the Father and the honoring of the Son, all John is saying, Jesus is saying, is that there's correspondence, not equivocation. Yeah, apologies wanting to make that just as an equivocation adverb, but that's not how Catholics is. It's a correspondence. That's just basic grammar. I'm sorry, you can't get equality of honoring like in terms of magnitude or degree. No, it's correspondence.
Expresses the unity of the Father and the Son's activity. If Jesus were to be given life independently of himself and he were God, that would invoke that he is a separate God from the Father. That doesn't follow. Tavish also cites Mark 13:32. But functional submission does not prove ontological inferiority. He in one of his videos on TikTok, he actually accuses me of redefining oida to mean to make known in Mark 13:32, which is not my argument. Context determines the respect in which the Son does not know. The passage concerns the appointed time of his return, which Acts chapter 1, verse 7 places within the Father's authority. The verses following verse 32, the disciples are servants commanded to watch. Jesus is the returning master. Tavish must demonstrate that this describes an intrinsic limitation of Christ's nature rather than the conditions of his incarnate mission.
Okay, sorry, Jared. I just wanted him to kind of finish that, because I was gonna ask Tavish, can you expound upon that? Just because I didn't see the video, and I'm pretty sure people watching this don't know what the TikTok was or is about.
Yeah, so I was on a live with him, and I think it was my second time talking to him. Maybe it was the first time. Anyway, and now to be fair, I don't think he made this argument, but the other guy on the live did make this argument. He said, "Oida doesn't mean to know; it means to declare." And then he went on, tried to go to different passages to try to prove that, and completely failed. So I made a response video going through every single usage of oida where it's translated as tell in the KJV, because there are some passages where it's translated as tell. And also, one of my favorite Metaphysics Mike's videos where he responds to God Logic making the same argument. That, oh, look, it's translated as tell, so therefore it can have the meaning to declare. So I went through every single passage where it's translated as tell and showed how it literally never means tell, as in I'm telling you something, I'm declaring something to you. It only ever has the negative particle with it, meaning I can't tell, or I don't know, I can't understand, I don't know.
Exactly. Yep.
Every other single translation says I don't know, I can't know, I don't understand, something like that. So that argument is completely bunk. And it seemed to me at the time that he agreed with that argument, because he didn't say, oh, well, it doesn't mean declare, but blah, 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 and give a different argument. He just went along with it. So I just assumed that he agreed with the other guy. So, sure, maybe he didn't make that claim explicitly from himself, but he certainly didn't argue with it when it was brought up.
Yeah, the other point is, he makes the statement, the context determines what the verb means. Okay, great, sure. So let's talk about the context in John. And he is like, well, let's go to Acts 1. It's like, okay, so we're leaving the context. We're going to a completely different statement and a completely different question from a completely different book that has a different context and a different answer. So it's like, what are we doing?
It also seems like he's not consistent in his explanation, because the first thing, or one of the first things he said was, functional submission does not equal ontological distinction, or whatever he said. So that to me sounds like what he would argue is, because Jesus is human, he doesn't have all knowledge because he gave that up or whatever. But then he still thinks that Jesus does know the day or the hour. It's just that knowledge is not from himself. He gets that knowledge from the Father, which to me, that's not the classical view of omniscience. Like, a classical view of omniscience, God does not gain any information at all. Like, God cannot learn or gain information from outside himself. He just has that knowledge inherently in his nature.
Notice the pattern. Every passage Tavish has cited establishes either a distinction between the Father and the Son, or the Son's incarnate mission. None demonstrates that Jesus has excluded himself from the divine identity. This is especially with the case where he cites the Son of Man referenced over 90 times in Ezekiel. But he's presupposing a lexical definition onto a separate context within a different chapter of a different book within the Bible.
So shame on Tavish for using a lexicon. Got it.
Literally. Like, because, we gets into this later where he's like, oh, does a lexicon have is it I forget exactly how I phrase it, but is it an exegetical tool or something like that? And I was like, yes. Well, we'll get into that in the Q or the cross exam, but he was being very fishy with his words and how he was asking things. So I was trying to be clear, but he was asking different questions in similar ways, but he thought he was asking different questions, and it just got confusing. But yeah, he literally doesn't think that a lexicon can tell you what a word means in a specific passage, even though I mean, at least the BDAG, and I'm pretty sure most other lexicons like Thayer's and whatever, they will give a definition, a possible definition, and then they'll give you passages where that definition applies. So they are doing some sort of interpretation. Now, they're not exegeting the entire passage and showing exactly what it means in that context, but they are saying, okay, in these passages, this is what the word, means. And it does have, most words do have flexibility in their meaning. But again, the word to know, oida, it only has one meaning. It only means to know. Like there's no, know in yourself or declare. Oh my God. I cannot get over how stupid the to declare argument is. It's so bad.
Yeah, but that's actually one of the good things and a good contrast between like a lexicon and a concordance. Because the concordance will kind of give you the root word and everywhere where the root word comes up at and a general definition. But the lexicon is so important because it takes the word exactly how it's being used with the either the prefixes or the suffixes, whether it's the Hebrew or the Greek, and it will tell you specifically what that word is and means, and then it will go to another passage and show you the exact same word, or not something similar, not just the root word. Because like I remember when I was in high school, I took like Spanish. So like you have like the root word for like tenar. I forgot what tenar means. Like I don't know if it's like to go or whatever. But then you have like the I form, so it's tango, and then or the he, you have like I think tene. Or like if we go, it's tenemos, right? So the root word is still there, but the lexicon would say it would, if tango is being used, it would look for everywhere else that tango is being used in that same way. Where the concordance would just show you tener and show you tener, tango, tenemos, everything like that, right? So, but yeah, with the lexicon tab, that like that he's accusing you of bringing up and somehow misusing. No, that's not how it works. The lexicon will tell you what the word means, and it will say here's another verse that same word is being used in, right? So
yeah, literally, I have this bookmarked because I knew it would come up. I have oida bookmark. Oh, where is it now? Okay, yeah. Nope, that's not it. Oh, yeah, okay. So, oida under
what lexicon is that?
It's the BDAG, an actual like BDAG. I don't even remember where I got this from, but it's pretty cool. It's kind of old, which makes it cooler. Okay, so it says followed by peri tenos, know about something. Matthew 24:36, Mark 13:32. That's what it means in that passage. It doesn't mean to have knowledge not in yourself, but from someone else or whatever. And again, the like Jared said, the whole idea that you can just jump to Acts 1, which is a different conversation. Like if you were going from Mark 13 to Matthew 24, that would be a fair, like, same context, same conversation. If
Right.
his argument was there, you could probably use that. But like jumping to Acts 1, it's a completely different conversation. Like weeks later, I don't even know how long later it is. But it's at least like a week or more later. So to just pretend that, and also, okay, because I admitted, or I granted, okay, yeah, the knowledge of Jesus's return is under the Father's authority. That doesn't mean that Jesus still knows it. That just means it hasn't been revealed to Jesus. So that's why he doesn't know it. Like
you're referring to the day and the hour.
Yeah.
But see, like see, that verse drives me nuts with Trinitarians because they always have something to like wiggle their way around it, but it literally says just as we don't know, just as the angels in heaven don't know. Mark says the Son does not know, and then Matthew, though, there is a textual variant. Some manuscripts include the Son, some don't, but Mark includes it. There's no textual variant with it. So yes, Jesus is being included in that, and it's not like a metaphor or anything like that. Like, we have no idea when Jesus will return. We don't know the day or the hour. We know nothing. All we know is it's in the future, right? It's not that he did return already, right? We know it's in the future. He's coming. We don't know when. We don't know what day. We don't know. Like, he even tells us, in one of the Gospels, he says even like pray that it's like not on a Sabbath and not when it's winter outside. Like, which is like, that's like the only hint. It's not even a hint, but just as we don't, like, he doesn't. Like, I don't know. I feel like whenever I ask a Trinitarian that question, I get a different answer every time.
Oh yeah.
No one's ever consistent.
Well, this is way off course, dude, but have you ever considered maybe the Sabbath in that passage isn't a Saturday, that it could be a feast?
Yeah.
Because look what happened in 70 AD. The reason so many people were unalived is because they came to the Passover, which was required. So pray the return wouldn't be on a holy day that you have to mass in one place and be an easy target.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, it would be either like Sukkot, Passover. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yom Kippur War.
Interesting.
Yeah. Feast of Trumpets. Yep.
This makes no sense because it doesn't describe this, because it's not univocal to define it within those terms. So yet my opening case consisted of multiple divine identifiers applied to Christ. Unless Tavish can explain why those unique divine identifiers belong to Jesus while he remains merely a creature, these isolated proof texts do not overturn the cumulative evidence. This brings me to my opponent Tavish's appeal to delegation, or shaliach, which I knew he was going to bring up. I agree that God delegates certain tasks, but none of God's other agents possesses the cumulative pattern applied to Jesus: pre-existence, participation in creation, authority over life and judgment, equal honor with the Father, worship, and participation in God's throne.
Oh, okay. Darn it. We should have wrote those down, because half of those things I can rattle off verses right now. So when it talks about receiving worship, Solomon was one who was anointed who was anointed. He sits on the throne of Yahweh. He literally receives in the Greek the same proskuneo. Moses had judgment that he gave upon Israel.
Literally,
I'm gonna rewind a little bit.
Judges.
The judges, the Sanhedrin, the 70 elders. God literally said, have them execute my judgment, but if there's something that is too difficult for them to figure out, then come to me and I can make my judgment. Their judgment was as if God was judging. That's man, I'm gonna hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tracking with everything that you're saying, and everybody listening to this stream, this point cannot be overstated or repeated enough. Every single instance that apology is referring to or making reference to as a proof of identity markers being applied to Jesus we see that same pattern applied to different individuals, and every one of those categories that he's talking about, we see applied to different individuals. Now, the actual argument that apology is saying is that, yeah, but no single one of those individuals, previous agents, or had this what's the word to use? Start with this.
Pre-existence.
No, it's what did he say? Combination, like the
Cumulative.
the cumulative. Yeah, but his argument is that no one single individual, apart from Jesus, had all the cumulative identifiers. Well, who cares? We're talking about things that he is claiming are distinctives of God that identify somebody as God, and we can identify all of those as being applied to different individuals in different times, in different contexts, in different ways. So his whole argument is, well, if we accumulate everything and put it on Jesus, this means he's God. No, that doesn't follow.
Mm-hmm.
If every single one of these are things that are said of other individuals, no matter how much you accumulate into one individual, that still doesn't make that individual God. It's just making all those instances being congealed upon one agent. And of course, we're saying that one agent is unique above all others because God has exalted him, super exalted him. So
Hyper
it's like
exalted.
hyper exalted. So it's like this argument has already failed. I mean, to me, honestly, like he is not performing in this debate. He's making an argument from accumulation, but that's not how you establish Jesus' claim to be God, by accumulating.
I think the easiest refute, honestly, to this is to be a unique individual doesn't make you God.
Mm-hmm.
Give Jesus as much
Right.
as you want in that little laundry list. To be a unique individual doesn't make you God.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, I think we can all agree here that Jesus possesses some qualities that God has. I'm not going to say, that we also share in it. Jesus can definitely possess qualities that we don't have that God does have. It doesn't mean he's God, because if there are things that God can do, and if there are things that Jesus can't do, that would eliminate him from that. Like, okay, so like Tavish, even like Tavish can also probably relate to this. We have sub foremans and we have general foremans, and we just have like just normal foremans, right? They're all foremans. There's different rankings among them. They can all tell you what to do, but some foremans don't have the rules and regulations that a general foreman would have. Even though they're both, like if Tavish and I are doing construction on a job, a sub foreman, a general foreman can be over us, but there are things that a sub foreman cannot do that a general foreman can do. So that would exclude him from that title because he does not have all the power and the authority that the general foreman has. Right? So the sub foreman is still above us. We listen to him. He tells us what to do, but he's not on the same level. He can't override. And that's the same thing with Jesus. Jesus is over us, but he's under the Father still. Like, yeah, I don't, I don't understand what's difficult about that. But hold on, I want to rewind it like 10 seconds just because I want to see if there's anything out that I missed. Oops. Okay, there we go.
Authority over life and in case
Let me go.
I knew he was going to bring up. I agree that God delegates certain tasks, but none of God's other agents possesses the cumulative pattern applied to Jesus.
Okay, I kind of want to take this one by none of the previous agents have the cumulative. What did he say?
Cumulative. The word cumulative. I can't say it. Word pattern. Meaning all those, you can't run around and find this individual has one of them, this one has another. That it's all of them has to be wrapped up in one person, which is why I said being a unique individual doesn't make you God.
Yeah. Okay.
Pre-existence.
So here's the stupid part about the whole pre-existence claim. Whenever like a pre-existing claim is brought up, they will take that as it being literal. But then when 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 9 says that we were given, I forgot what the text exactly verbatim says, but we were given something before the foundation of the earth. So why can't we all pre-exist? Like Mormons actually use one of that verse for part of their idea that they all existed as spirit babies and then they came to the earth and they just forgot. So why can't we pre-exist? Why can't I interpret that verse as being literal and we just forgot our pre-existence? We're hanging out in heaven, hanging out on golden streets on the clouds and with our halos and everything. And then why can't we just forget that we were up there?
Yeah.
Participation in creation.
Tavish and I know for a fact, participated in creating.
Well, that's true.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there anywhere in the Bible that says angels or heavenly hosts did not participate?
Not explicitly.
It says that they it says that we will be like the angels, not being given in marriage. And I think marriage would imply, but specifically what you're asking for, I would say no.
Because if we were honestly neutral, like passages like Isaiah 44:24, you could simply argue that when God says he does it alone, that he's contrasting himself with other gods, not necessarily other beings. Because of just some context there, I don't know, just the context of Isaiah. There's a couple passages there, like being the only savior. Well, the reason, so he starts in verse 10, says, before me there was no ale formed, nor shall there be after me. And then he states that he is the savior, goes into verse 12 and says that you would know that I am God, and I am Yod-Heh God, and there's none else, or something like that. That's a really bad paraphrase, but what he's contrasting himself with is other gods. And Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 12, I think it is, where he says he brought him out alone, but we know he used angels. But the context of Deuteronomy 32 is against other gods. So what I would say is we shouldn't automatically assume God didn't operate through other beings unless it explicitly says it. Because, the host of heaven was made by his mouth and word. We got that in Deuteronomy 33, but it doesn't explicitly say when that took place. Just some thoughts for y'all.
Right.
Authority over life and judgment.
So yeah, we already kind of said that, but like the judges, the Sanhedrin, we literally had this. And like it's even funny because like Jesus even warns us, don't be afraid of the one who like takes your life, right? In the unaliving part, but be afraid of the one who can like permanently, not resurrect you, or the one that to give you that eternal life.
Equal honor with the Father.
And like I would even say again, 1 Chronicles 29, 20-25,
Worship and participation in God's throne.
Solomon literally sits on the throne of Yahweh. And I love that verse too, because it doesn't say Lord, Master, God. It says that Solomon sits on the throne of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
My opponent Tavish, therefore, owes us a symmetry breaker. What distinguishes a divine person from a creature who has supposedly received every divine name, activity, prerogative, and honor? He has not provided that distinction. What about my second contention? Tavish has not addressed any of this. He would, but I assume that he would.
Before he goes on. He said that Jesus is given every name of God. You didn't prove that. There's El Elyon, God of gods, or God Most High. El Shaddai. Yahweh is never explicitly given to Jesus. Like there's plenty, Lord of Hosts. There's plenty of names that are applied to God, the Father, that are not applied to Jesus. So you can't just claim every name of God is given to Jesus. That's ridiculous.
You just got to believe, dude.
Take the position that the Pharisees misunderstood him. Now, I'm not claiming that I would still wait for him to apply, but I am not claiming that these were infallible interpreters. My point is that the gospel writers repeatedly connect their charges to specific claims by Jesus, and Jesus responds by defending and intensifying those claims rather than correcting the basic category. So Tavish's treatment of these reactions, I would assume, would be inconsistent. But I will wait for him to give more identifiers and more responses to that. But I will leave it. My opponent, Tavish, has therefore not shown that receiving from the Father excludes Jesus from the divine identity, nor has he explained why the cumulative identifiers of Yahweh are applied to Jesus, or why those claims repeatedly provoke accusations of blasphemy.
So, okay, to receive something means that you've never had it before. You know, if like you guys just can't come into my house, right?
Or at least you don't have it at the time.
Right. I can say that, hey, you now have permission, you have a right, you have the power to come in my house, you have the authority now to enter in my house. Here's the password, type it in, you can come in. Right? If you did not, so like, man, I don't know. I'm kind of speechless.
And I don't know if you guys caught it earlier when he misquoted John 17:5, right around when he was talking about John 17:3. He turned right, he quoted 17:5 this way: Jesus asked the Father to restore to him the glory he shared with the Father before the world was. Notice what and that's not verbatim, but that's the verbiage he used. He said, Jesus asked the Father to restore to him the glory that he shared with the Father. Notice how much of a misquotation of John 17:5 that is. I mean, he's already presumed this idea, so of course he's going to read Jesus receiving something as, well, not actually receiving it ontologically as if he never had it, but it's like a relational thing. It's a functional thing. Now, it's like, no, we can't do that with the language. To receive something is to receive something you didn't have, that you had before, that you couldn't have unless the person that you're asking for it gives it to you. The Father doesn't relationally give Jesus this at some point in time. No. So, yeah, it's crazy.
So I was just sitting here thinking, listen how easy it is to refute that Jesus humbled himself. Why did Jesus not have power? Because he humbled himself. In order for that to be a justification for him not having power and power being given to him, you have to concede he didn't have it when he humbled himself. And then that's an ontological change, not a personal change. Because you can't be given what you already have.
He has still not responded to my second contention. Appealing to delegation does not answer that evidence unless my opponent can provide a consistent boundary between a divine person and a merely exalted creature. With that, I will yield the rest of my time.
Well, we got to wait until next time we do this to go over the cross exam. But Tavish, do you kind of go into what, like, his argument of, they wanted to charge him for blasphemy? I don't know if you and I are on the same page of this. I believe that they're trying to find a way to kill him because they knew he was one who was sent by God. And just as they killed all the other prophets, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Elijah, they also wanted to kill him because they knew he was also sent by God. Do you kind of make that argument, or?
I definitely agree that they were trying to find a way to kill him. I don't know if they actually thought he was sent by God. I think they might have thought he was lying about that he was a false prophet, that he was claiming to be sent from God, but they didn't think he actually was. But either way, they saw him as a threat to their authority. People were following him, thousands of people, and he was performing miracles and healing people and changing people's lives. So no matter what they thought in their minds, whether they actually thought he was sent by God or not, they definitely were threatened by him and wanted to get him out of the picture. And they were looking for any way to do that by claiming blasphemy.
So real quick, I think that they did, because when he had that conversation with Nicodemus, he says that we believe that you are sent by God because only one sent by God can do this. He says we there, and I know I've gotten pushback from people where it's like, well, but Will, that doesn't prove it's the entirety of the Pharisees. It could have just been a few other ones, and sure, I can get that, but I also think too, when Jesus talks about the unforgivable sin. He says everything, before that, they're accusing him that he gets his powers from Beelzebub. So if we were to understand it, that all of the Pharisees understood that he gets his powers from God and he's sent by God, and then they accuse him of getting his powers from Beelzebub, they're deliberately lying, right? Which is more kind of an unforgivable, to me, that's how I interpret the unforgivable sin. Like, if you know something and you still go against it, what sacrifices can we give? Because in the Torah, any of the sacrifices that are there, it's for unintentional sin. There's no sacrifices for intentional sin. Even in Hebrew, I believe it's Hebrews 10:26. It might be 10:36. It talks about if you keep on sinning after receiving the knowledge, there's no forgiveness for you. And I tie those together.
Right.
And then also with the parable of the vineyard, God plants the vineyard. That's Mark 12 and Matthew 21. After he plants it, and look, I understand it's a parable, it's not literal, but there is a part in the parable that I do think is interesting, because when Jesus comes, they say, "Oh, look, there is the heir. Let us go and kill him and take all the everything that would then inherit to him. We would inherit." So there's an acknowledgement in the parable. I understand it's a parable, but I do think it's interesting that it is brought up in there, showing that. So that's why I think the evidence does point towards that they did know, because I mean, they unalived all the other prophets. Are we going to believe that they truly didn't believe Jeremiah was? I mean, it's detailed in the account. The Talmud and the church fathers talk about Isaiah hiding in a tree. Elijah literally says, God, I'm not going down there. They're going to kill me, So for all of these examples, I think I think it's logical to say that, yes, they all knew the early prophets were one sent by God, but they wanted them gone. They didn't want to go back on track. And then same thing with Jesus. Just kind of my thoughts.
So let me say a couple things. So I'll try to be brief. I believe that John chapter 5 takes place at Purim, the Feast of Purim, which would begin the acceptable year of the Lord, because 1 year later he would be crucified. I believe after he was baptized, he didn't start his ministry for about a year. He and his disciples were baptizing with John. John wasn't arrested for about a year later. I can give you details about that stuff later. But in John chapter 5, that's where they first sought to kill him. And it said for this reason they sought to kill him, because he was breaking the Sabbath. And then because he said he was the Son of God, which they knew was a messianic claim. But he didn't claim to be the Son of God. He didn't say that I am the Messiah in that chapter. He just said that God was his father, and they made the connection. Now, did they ever try to trip him up to look for a reason to unalive him? John chapter 10, when they said, "Tell us plainly if you're the Christ." And I believe the reason Jesus answered the way he did is to take that accusation away from him. He said, "I've told you the works I do in my Father's name, authority, bear witness that I'm anointed." You know, so he's not pointing to himself, self-proclaiming himself. He's pointing to the works. Now, when you mentioned those Beelzebub passages, that makes it even more explicit because of Deuteronomy 13. This prophet's supposed to come do signs and wonders that come to pass. He's doing that. Now all we got to do is get him to take God's name and blaspheme it just by saying that you're working in God's name or that you were sent by God, and then doing something like break the Sabbath according to their interpretation of what breaks the Sabbath. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Such as healing. So if you got him do miracles, all you need to do is now get him to say he's the Messiah. He's proclaiming himself God. So no, God's anointed. So if he then does something that breaks Torah, easy done deal. And they got that in John chapter 5. Oh, and John chapter 11, they said, what do we do? This man does many miracles. If we leave him alone, Rome will come in and take our place in nation. And what's even more interesting about that statement is they're concerned about their place, their nation. But if they studied the scriptures, as the Pharisees should have been deep in the scriptures, they know when Messiah comes, that's when the chariots are cut off. So Rome wouldn't have prevailed against them if Jesus was Messiah. They were more interested in themselves. That's all.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that question more. But to me, it seems to go against human nature. That they would truly believe. Okay, if they thought that they were true believers in God, and they thought that Jesus was a true prophet, to me that goes against human nature that they would want to unalive him. Because to me, the vast majority of humans, they want to do what's right. Now they may be confused about what's right and they end up doing evil, but they at least try to do good, or they stick to their convictions and try to, go along with that. I'll just get political for a sec. It's like the left, they think they're doing the right thing when they, assassinate certain political figures or try to. They think they're on the right side. They don't think they're doing anything evil. They're true believers on that side. So, well, I mean, you could say maybe not.
I'm
but
not saying
either
you're
way-
wrong for that. I just go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I mean, my point is, most people that are doing evil things, they don't think they're doing evil things. So, sometimes they do, like they know that what they're doing is wrong and they're going to do it anyway. But most of the time, at least from my opinion, people think they're doing the right thing, even if they're not. They're just very confused on what the right thing is.
So
I understand.
So one thing I would add, I would maybe put forth, Tavish, is if I would suggest to read Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2 and 3, and with the treatment of Jesus by the religious authorities in mind, and especially the crucifixion in mind. Look up Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2 and 3, particularly chapter 2. It describes people who are foolish. In other words, they lack wisdom and the fear of the Lord, and they're described as like actively opposing the one that they know is exposing their sin. And
I'll read
because,
it.
yeah,
Not right now, but
yeah. So just a thought.
okay.
go ahead,
Cool.
Jesse.
Thank you. You're muted, Jesse. If you're
Oh, Jesse,
trying to
yeah,
talk.
John 12:42 for 43. I want to read a couple verses. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers also many believed on him, but because of the Pharisees they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue, for they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. That reflects the previous chapter also. And when you take it into consideration what Will asked you, don't forget to read Matthew 23 about the Pharisees, the woes.
I think too, Tavish, like you would say that all the Israelites in the Torah, like they all believe that Moses was once sent by God, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, and this isn't a trick question. Like, I would say yes because dude literally did all those, all the plagues in Egypt. They all saw it. They witnessed, even the firstborn of the Egyptians dying, that they had to do this to save it. But we literally see all of them turning on Moses several times.
Yeah.
Even the whole thing with Korah, like that was a big deal.
The legend.
So like I will grant that to you. Like is like we can't read hearts, right? For me, I'm convinced by the evidence, and that kind of works like with my apologetics when I kind of like do the unforgivable sin and everything like that. That kind of works with me. And I just feel like that's enough evidence. But I was just kind of curious to be like your standpoint. So we can move on to now we're gonna hear
turn this into a 3-on-1 debate. Come on, guys. Calm down. I'm just joking.
Jeez, dude. Yeah, let's go into Tavish's rebuttal of apologies opening statement.
All right, that went for a total of 7 minutes and 56 seconds. So you've yielded the rest of your time. So we're going to cross over to Tavish, the friendly heretic.
Wait, I thought you guys got 7 minutes.
It was 10 minutes. But he just didn't use his all the time. No, it was 10 and then 5 for the second rebuttal.
That's right. There's 2 rebuttals.
Yeah, he didn't use all his time.
Rebuttal statement begins as soon as you speak.
Okay. So he started off by saying that, well, Jesus doesn't need to claim, quote, I am God or something like that. Well, it sure would be helpful if he did that, because then you'd actually have an argument. But the fact that he never actually does that points in my favor. Yes, you don't need that claim exactly, but certainly would help you. So we went through the hands, the honor, authority, name, deed, seat. For worship, I mean, we see that other people besides God receive worship in the correct way. So, in First Chronicles 29:20, it says, the whole assembly blessed the Lord, God of their fathers, and bowed their heads and prostrated themselves before the Lord and the king. So there are humans that are appointed to high positions where God actually tells others to prostrate themselves to them and be worshipped. So there's no problem there. He talked about I am. I could say a lot about I am, or ego eimi. Simply put, it's a self-designation. Many other people in the Bible say ego eimi. None of them are claiming to be God. The blind man in John 9, he says ego eimi to say, hey, I'm the one you're talking about. Peter says it in Acts 10:21. So other people say ego eimi. It's not a divine claim. And even if you took that as him claiming pre-existence, that still doesn't get you to being God Most High, because there are other beings besides God Most High that could claim some kind of pre-existence. Authority, glorify me, before John 17:5. So, yeah, I mean, God gives glory to other people. Psalm 8:5. says that humanity has been made a little lower than the angels, but you've crowned him with glory and honor. Psalm 84:11 says the Lord gives grace and glory. And then right there in John 17:22, Jesus says, I have given them the glory which you have given me.
You know, I think, Tavish, real quick, you're doing a really good job. These are all good verses, and everyone watching this, really go back and listen to and take the time to actually look up what Tavish is bringing up, because this really will help you. I mean, these are great verses. Tavish, Jesse, Jared, and I all bring up all we all know. The only annoying thing is, and I haven't watched this yet. And Tavish, don't tell me, but I guarantee you his rebuttal is going to be, it's in a different context. When Jesus receives glory, it's because Jesus is God. If Peter, John, whoever receives the glory, it's because they're a human being.
Yeah, I don't remember if he responds to that directly.
Okay.
I don't remember, but
I
yeah,
feel like
I mean
that's
that
always
is
the case.
that is the standard move. Like, oh, it's a different kind of glory. Like, okay, yeah, in the same chapter where Jesus says, "Give me this glory," and then he says, "I'm giving you this glory that I was given." Yeah, it's a different glory. Okay, yeah, sure,
Yeah, and you're definitely off to a good start. I agree with Will. There's
Yeah.
two things that that it would have been great to sort of lead off with is that the fact that his argument, as we've already talked about before, is that essentially none of these identifiers of themselves makes a person God. His argument is that cumulatively they make Jesus God and claiming to be God. So that's actually his argument, and so it. But that doesn't follow. If any one of the things is not sufficient to make Jesus God, then cumulatively doesn't get him closer to being God. It's just accumulation of non-God identifiers.
Yeah, and I feel like I missed that specific claim. But you know, it is what it is.
And the other one, it was you kind of did make the point, but again, like being really precise, his argument was that Jesus was asking God to give him God's glory, his glory, and you made it a point. You didn't say God can give Jesus his glory, and it's not talking about being God. You specifically said God can give people glory, as distinct from where in Isaiah 44 he says, I don't give my glory to another. Well, God didn't give Jesus God's glory. God gave Jesus the glory that was prophesied regarding the Messiah. He gave that glory. Jesus was asking for that glory. He didn't say, give me your glory.
Right.
I just want to point out real quick. I'm happy my brother Sean is identifying and acknowledging the quadrinity. It's something that I've been pushing for a very long time. So thank you, Sean.
Yeah, because I was ready for that passage. Because yeah, I agree. God does not share his glory with anyone, as it says in Isaiah. But that does not mean that he can't give glory to other beings. Because and that's why I showed those other passages that are very clear that God gives glory to others. Another one that I don't think I mentioned is Romans 8:29, where it says that we will be glorified. Or it might be 8:30, but anyway, in that context. Yeah.
That they may be one as we are one. So
Each
Jesus
ad.
is saying, this glory that you've given me, I'm going to give it to the disciples. So if that's the divine glory that he's always had with God before the world existed, then is he making the disciples into God, into divine, glorious beings? No, obviously not. It's not a divine glory. In Isaiah, when he talks about him not sharing his glory, it's talking about he's not going to share his glory with anyone else. So in other words, he's not going to give credit to other beings for what he has done. In that context, it's idols. So he's basically
Can you
saying,
pause? So he's absolutely right. I just want to say this. It says, I am Yod He Vav He, that is my name, and my glory I won't give another. See how fast I said that? Now let me ask you, why does he say that is my name? So, and what is another? It's an adjective. It modifies something in the context. What is another? I am Yod He Vav He. That's my name. My glory I won't give to another Yod He Vav He. That's why he said neither my praises to graven images. So first off, you can't just leave another hanging there. It's an adjective. It modifies something in the context. So we can't just assume that God doesn't give his glory to anyone. The context is explicitly saying that he doesn't give his glory to another in regards to his name, his identity. That's my name. I'm Yod He Vav He. What's more important, Tavish, read John 17:11. Keep them in your name that they may be one as we are. Contrast that with John 17:22. The glory you gave me, I've given them that they may be one as we are. That how do you be one? To be in the Father's name. How do you be one? To have the glory. John 17:12. When I was in the world, I kept them in your name. That's when he gave it to you. Glory is directly related to God's name because the Hebrew word for glory means weight. God's name bears God's weight. I'll chill.
Yeah, I agree with myself.
I'm the creator. I've done all these things. I'm not going to share my glory with anyone else. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't give glory, just generically speaking, to human beings. He also said that life and judgment are given to the Son. Yep, agree. Names my Lord and my God. Yeah, I mean, I could take the view that Thomas is saying that calling Jesus my Lord and my God, both terms to Jesus, but I don't take that view. I think he's talking about two different individuals in that passage. So the Lord, my Lord, would be Jesus, and my God would be God Most High, the Father. And it's consistent throughout the entire Bible that who the one God is. It's the Father. So it'd be very strange for Thomas to just blurt out that Jesus is God. And he doesn't necessarily accept that term. He just says what you've spoken is true. And if Thomas was saying my Lord Jesus and my God Father, then there's no problem with Jesus affirming that. He talked about in Mark 2 where Jesus forgives sins. I don't know if he does forgive sins, but in Matthew 9, the counterpart, which he also quoted, in verse 6, it says, you may know that the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins. So Jesus is saying, this power has been given to me, to a man. Son of Man means human being, on earth to forgive sins. And then in verse 8.
Oh, hold on. I wanted to pause real quick there. And Tabs, I might have cut you off. I don't know. Did you bring up the Levitical priests or the seraphim?
I did not. I don't.
Or the disciples? Okay. There's
and
actually
the reason I didn't because I'm just not as familiar with that as you guys. So, you know.
Okay. No. Yeah. Because there was Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy actually had a video, and I thought I saved it, and I didn't. I mean, this was like years ago. But he actually had a commentary where he literally brought up a commentary from a Trinitarian, and who literally said, yes, based on how the language is written, the Levitical priests do forgive the sins. Israel brings the offering to the Levitical priests. The Levitical priests accept it. The Levitical priests forgive the sins. And that's in Leviticus chapter 4 and 5. It's either 4:13 specifically or 5:13 specifically. You also see in Isaiah chapter 6, the seraphim grab the coals and they touch Isaiah's lips with it. And they say that like your sins are, I forgot the exact wording. If it says like your sins have been cleansed, purged, forgiven. something like that, but same thing with that. And then he also says to his disciples, you can now also you have the power now to forgive sin. So the idea that only God can forgive sin, yes, the forgiveness comes from God, but God can delegate it to other people, i.e. the Levitical priests, the seraphim, the Messiah. So we see that.
I think, and I'm going to try to get in the habit of doing this. There's some new habits I need to start making, but we need to stop refuting claims that have no evidence. I mean, I really need to see a Bible verse that says only God can forgive sins. I don't want your assumption. I need a Bible verse that says only God can receive worship. All these only God claims, I want to see a Bible verse. Why am I going to sit there and agree to your premise? When we start trying to refute them, we accept their premises. So why are we doing that? I did that in my debate last night. This guy showed up with these slides with all these verses and didn't even explain how they proved what he said they proved. In my debate, I might have addressed a couple, but I basically said I don't even know why I'm addressing these because he didn't offer any evidence to explain how these prove what he says they prove. We should really consider that.
When the multitude saw it, they marveled and glorified God who had given such power to men. So the crowds understood that this authority was given to a man, Jesus, and they glorified God because of it. That they didn't glorify Jesus thinking that he's God because he forgave sins. No. Daniel 7. Again, in Daniel 7, the one like a son of man is the saints of the Most High. It's very clear in the vision. For example, the 4 beasts that are talked about in Daniel 7, those are identified as 4 evil kings or kingdoms. And in the same way, the Son of Man is identified as the saints of the Most High, which will also be given, because they're also said to be given the kingdom, the power, authority. I think it's 5 or 6 times in that chapter. So he basically said Son of Man doesn't mean human being in Daniel 7 or the Gospels. He said, oh, well, you have to look at the context of how they're using it. No, the Son of Man means a human one that is human. So however you want to, if you want to claim, well, Jesus has 2 natures, and in Daniel 7, he's clearly has 2 natures because he comes on the clouds. Also, the Son of Man doesn't ride on the clouds, which is what's said of Yahweh. It says he comes with the clouds. You'll never find those 2 terms being mixed up with each other. Yahweh.
I think it says that in the Septuagint.
Can you pause for a moment? Yeah, I mean, this is another exceptional point and distinction that you made, Tavish, here. This is an exceptional point. Again, something that's completely overlooked, and Trinitarian apologetics just glosses over this and just collapses them into one statement and one identity statement. I mean, it's completely different imagery. Yahweh makes the clouds his chariots and rides atop them and is riding on them. And the Son of Man is, on the contrary, coming with the clouds. I mean, it's not the same thing. Jesus is not the cloud rider. So yeah, good point there.
Like how Elijah didn't actually drive the chariot; he just kind of sat in it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested about something. Deuteronomy 33:26. There's none like God, O Jeshurun, who rides through the heavens to your help, and in his majesty through the skies. Somebody took me to the Torah. I just asked ChatGPT. I can't remember the verse. Maybe that's the right one. But it says, there's none like the God. And I think one of those words actually mean clouds. It might even be skies. So there's none like Elohim that does this, right? But what's the significance? I didn't even make this connection till right now. God riding in the clouds. The Exodus story. Now, if that's significant that God was in that pillar of cloud, how was God in the cloud? The angel, which conveyed God's presence. So if Jesus, being a son of man, comes into clouds, just as that angel did, we already seen this happen before in the scripture. So what makes you think only God can do it? Because you're assuming that God is an angel. Not you guys, but they assume that God is an angel for real. That's crazy. But God can come into clouds by an angel. Why can't God come into clouds by a man? That's all.
Real quick, I wanted to say this. I recognize one of the guys in the chat. He has Pranktor. Hold on.
What Pantocrator Apologia? That's
No,
what
the guy with the Russian. Here, this guy.
yeah, that's what it says.
Are you Russian?
No,
Kevin? Oh,
I
okay.
googled it.
Okay,
he
yeah.
was in, like,
So
I
yes,
wanna see actually in that.
this is actually because I responded to him actually last year when I was at a tool. Not to totally change subject or whatever. I responded to him last year when I was at a tool show. I was with my buddy. He owns an HVAC company, and we were with him. He's the guy, the Pranktor. The guy who makes all the videos about Kanisha, me, mostly about metaphysics, Mike, and shoot, what's his name on here?
I mean, that translates to Pantocrator Apology.
Panto,
so
yeah. So
defense of the defense of the Almighty.
Okay, hold on.
Because I could kind of suss out the first part, Pantocrator, which I knew is Greek for Almighty. I couldn't really understand the second part, so I had to Google it. But.
Yeah, where's this guy? He makes all the videos about. Hold on, oh my gosh, where is he?
Kanisha's saying JR. Oh no, she's responding to someone else. Never mind.
Wait, was it my video? Because I responded to him. No, it wasn't alive. It wasn't alive. It was like we're responding to.
Oh, he said Ukrainian, not Russian. Try again, hillbilly. I love the internet.
This guy. Okay, found him. Share screen. This is the guy right here. Cause like he makes all these shorts. Like
oh, that guy.
Oh, there's Kanisha. Me. Look at her.
Yeah.
Shout out Kanisha in the chat.
And then we got
Dustin Smith.
Oh, look at this heretic right here.
Yeah, he loves me. He's always in my comments. I quit talking to these people.
He loves you.
Hey, there's me.
Hey, you made it.
He's got me as a puppet. Yeah, so this is guys, this guy right here, he keeps changing his name, but I just kind of wanted to showcase him. He wanted the attention because I've asked this guy to just let's have a friendly conversation. Doesn't even have to be a debate. I just want to talk, man. I just want to talk. But he loves us. You know, shout out to him for making this beautiful picture of Kanisha, this beautiful picture of Jesse. He has a man crush on Metaphysics Mike, but I love this picture of me.
It's so good.
So good. Look at this picture of Mike right here. He gets it's funny. I mean, this is hey, look, he put Mike in a suit.
Hey, Mike never wears suits.
Yeah, so this guy's cool.
I'm sorry,
very
this guy needs to get a life.
This is his life.
And I know he's in the chat. He's not really doing anything. He's not arguing anything of substance. It's just filling space, hot air, fluff, and smoke. And nothingness.
Yeah,
So,
I asked him to actually give a verse that shows anti-Trinitarians being antichrist, and he just ignored me.
Yeah, he's not one. I mean, I have an entire video on my channel. I actually made a response to him. I tagged him in it, so I know he saw it. And
honestly, my suggestion is, well, maybe I'll put it in the chat. But people like him kill the vibe with the chat. So
he's cool. He's someone he wants to be heard. He wants the attention. I'll give it to him. It's all good. It's no hate, man. I love the videos. I mean, there's no such thing as bad exposure. So, but I saw the Russian Ukrainian, whatever it was. So to you, my friend, Slava Bogo. Okay, let's continue.
On top of the clouds, and the Son of Man comes with the clouds. You cannot conflate those two phrases. He said enemies. They all understood that he was claiming divinity, and he basically makes the assumption that blasphemy is only for claiming to be God, or falsely claiming to be God. But of course, that's just not true. We know there are many other ways to blaspheme, because blaspheme just means to insult gravely, to insult the name of God, or to carry the name of God in vain. I believe the second commandment. And we know that evil people unalived God's prophets all throughout the Old Testament. This is a very common theme, even in the Gospels. It talks about God sending his servants, which are in the parable, his prophets, and they all get taken out. And then he finally
hold up. That heretic don't know what he's talking about. The Pharisees never unalived any prophets. The Pharisees never unalived any prophets in the Old Testament because they didn't come till the Maccabees. I'm done.
That's true. It was Israel. It technically was Israel. I mean, come on, Tavish, get your definitions correct. Like, idiot.
And what happens to his son? Well, we all know. So evil people don't need a justified excuse to unalive those who they hate, who threaten their authority. And again, in John, there's a theme of misunderstanding, which he talked about. They never understand what he's saying. In every single place where he went, John 5, John 10, it's very clear they don't understand what he's saying. They are misunderstanding him. Let's talk about John 5 a little bit more. In verse 19, he says the Son can do nothing of himself. In verse 22,
1 minute.
committed all judgment to the Son. Verse 23, we should honor the Son as we honor the Father, because Jesus is God's agent. Verse 26, the Father gives life to the Son. Verse 27, God has given Jesus the authority to execute judgment, because he's the human one, the Son of Man. Verse 30, Jesus can do nothing of himself. He judges as he hears, and his judgment is righteous because he seeks the will of God instead of his own will. So all throughout John 5, it's very clear that Jesus is saying, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me, it's the Father, it's God. At the trial, you can see in Mark 15 all throughout, the claims that they're making about him are not him claiming to be God. They accuse him of claiming to be the King of the Jews, the Christ, the King of the Jews, the King of the Jews, the King of the Jews, and there's a bunch of verses for that. So I'll stop there.
All right, well done on your opening statements and rebuttals, gentlemen. Now we're going to move into cross-examination. The affirmative, in whom will be cross-examining Tavish, if I'm not mistaken, will be.
We have one more round of rebuttals.
We have one more round of.
Oh my gosh, I literally
AO as a moderator.
Bro, my heart stopped for a second. So I'm like, wait a minute. I thought I saved this right after the But I remember that because I was even thinking the same thing. I'm like, TikTok moderators, they have no idea what's going on.
It's okay. I forgive
Rebuttal,
you.
so it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes each. Yeah. Okay, very well. Excuse me, I'm a terrible moderator. So 5-minute rebuttal. The first one will be opening with apology. Apology. Your 5-minute rebuttal will begin as soon as you commence.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's go back to the claim that he made about I am God. He never claims I'm God, but that would help my position. Well, again, remember, the reason why Jesus did not claim I am God is because he would get people to confused into thinking that he is the Father. Because according to ancient Jews,
but it doesn't even say Father. He doesn't even say Father. It just says God. If you're going to say that he is God.
Dude, I love this because he's literally just admitting that the Jews thought God is the Father. Like, it's so funny. It's so good. That's what I'm like. I'm like, you can see me laughing in the debate. So funny.
Well, that's so. Hold on, because someone actually liked one of my older posts where I brought up the Greek Septuagint. Here it is. It's oh, come on, it's loading. Okay, so in the Septuagint in Psalms 45:1, it literally says ego eimi hotheos, or hotheos or hotheon. I am the God. That's what it literally translates. I encourage anyone go look it up. Psalms 45 verse 1. I believe it's in the Masoretic. It's Psalms 44 verse 2. It's going to be slightly different, but we have that claim there that I am the God, right? But again, we're not claiming that he is the Father. Mm-hmm. That's something Unitarians and Trinitarians both agree on, that Jesus is not the Father, but he can still make the claim that he is God verbatim. He's not going to say that I am the Father, but he could have said I am the God, as we see here, but he doesn't. But instead, and we've already kind of talked about this, but he confirms the fact that he is the Messiah, the one sent by God. Yeah.
The God of Israel is their Father, which is what they repeatedly call Yahweh. So just to simply say, I am God, does not establish Tavish's case. It simply is a presupposition that he is inverting into the text. He also cites actually the Shema, because surprisingly in his argument, and I don't think he actually directly gave it, but it is one of his hidden.
Yeah, hang on, can you pause? I just find this funny that he clearly had his rebuttal already figured out. And so, because I never mentioned the Shema, but he's going to talk about it because he thought I would bring it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you did bring up the Shema.
No, I didn't, because and I'll be honest, I don't like the way a lot of Unitarians try to use the Shema, because, I mean, even people that I won't name drop anyone, but even people that I very highly respect and are very, very smart, very good people, because they'll say the Shema says Yahweh is one person, and I don't think you can get that from the Shema. I just don't think it's there. You can get it. You can get that there's only one Yahweh, but I don't think you can extrapolate that to say it means one person. I just don't think you can make that leap.
You need to watch my opening last night, because I proved it. You got to go back to Exodus chapter 6.
I don't remember that part. I did watch most of that debate, but
I think
I'll send you my notes. I can send you my notes, a link to my notes, and you can read it. That's all. My bad.
Well, I mean, I think it's 6 verse 2, Deuteronomy 6:2, which introduces the who that is Yahweh, that is Echad. It's a third person singular pronoun, him, he, him. So I mean, there's that.
Also, too, because I know that they're gonna Tavish, I get what you're saying, because they're gonna twist it and say, well, no, we understand that God is one, but that's referring to the being. That's not referring to the persons. They play that word game. Mm-hmm. But it's not even like, because in Jesse's debate last night, and we were kind of talking about it, I think this morning or last night, about the whole compound unity thing. No lexicon actually says that it's a compound unity. That's only brought up in the concordance. So I think that is important to say, because everyone will say, "Oh, that's just that's a compound unity." No, that's just from the reading from the concordance, because there are other people who will make fun of you for using the concordance, say that that's white belt theology, when okay, whatever then, but it also doesn't fit the whole compound unity. But also in the Greek, when the word one is being used there, it's numerically one, like numerically number one, so I understand what you're saying. Like they're still going to say it doesn't, it's talking about the essence, or the being, the one being, not the person, everything like that. So
Well, don't worry, because we're going to get into this when he brings up Genesis 11:6.
yeah.
Well, I got it pulled up, so I'm ready for it. Ready for it.
Argument. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. But the problem is that doesn't establish his case either. Because if we look directly at the Shema explicitly states the word echad. The word echad stands for a collective single group of people, better known as a compound unity. So sometimes if we use this same passage, for example, such as in, I believe it is, I think it was in Numbers, where it talks specifically, if we go to Genesis 11:6, where it calls a population of Babel one people, echad, while in Numbers 13:23 calls many grapes one cluster. This does not prove the Trinity, but
it's so we all get the whole. I mean, I think the whole grapes, the many grapes being one cluster, and how that's basically partialism. You're welcome. Congratulations. You're a partialist. Apology. But Genesis 11:6, literally the Hebrew is this: and said Yahweh, behold, the people, masculine singular, echad, masculine singular. He's not talking about a bunch of people, a bunch of peoples being one people. No, this is, and said Yahweh, behold, the people one. And people there is just masculine singular. So of course, a people would be one, because it's singular. And the Wesapah and language, achat, one. So God is saying, behold, one people, and behold, one language. I mean, you're not talking. This isn't a compound unity, because it's a masculine singular achad modifying masculine singular people. You're not talking about a compound unity here. This is just one people. It's singular. In grammar, not just in meaning.
Demonstrates that echad does not automatically exclude personal plurality. He needs to prove, Tavish needs to prove right here that the Shema echad is referring to one God, that the one God must be one person rather than assume it. That's his assumption that he's presenting tonight. He also presents prostrating worship, responding to my, basically the worship from my hands acronym, which is, he cites, for example, 2 Chronicles, but the context here doesn't necessarily prove that those who prostrate before the king and before the God are also worshiping it. There's no type of grammatical feature that he's using to actually show that that's the case. Also, he strawmans my argument about I am. When Jesus quotes John chapter 9, where he says, I am that person. In fact, Jesus doesn't say those words. He says, show me the Son of Man and I will believe. He says, it is the one speaking to you right now. It's not this. He doesn't say I am. He says it's the one speaking to you. And then he falls down and worships him. So Jesus is actually affirming directly to that imagery of being the Son of Man. But this creates an inconsistency for Tavish. If he's going to claim that the Son of Man is the saints of the Most High, then he is completely ignoring the symmetry breakers between the Son of Man and the saints of the Most High. When the Son of Man is given worship, halach, and also given glory, these two things are completely absent from the saints of the Most High. This, again, presupposing the conclusion that he wants. If he's going to establish that it's a collective, then he has to refute what the Aramaic directly says, which is lech. All the service goes to him, not to them. These are the symmetry breakers here.
Hold up. We can't confuse English with Aramaic. We can't confuse English with Greek. We can't confuse English with Hebrew. We can't. Our grammar functions differently. That word which Jared was just talking about in Genesis 11, is a singular noun for a collection of people. All pronouns in Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic must agree with their noun in gender and number. So of course it's lahe, a singular masculine noun, because it's referring back to the singular group of people. What are you talking about? All right, I'm done.
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah. And to be clear, if you just read Daniel 7, just read it all the way through, it's very clear that Daniel has a vision and he sees these 4 beasts and he sees the one like a son of man. The 4 beasts are interpreted explicitly as being 4 kingdoms, which are like evil, bad kingdoms. And then I'll throw him a bone. It never says the Son of Man is the saints of the Most High. It doesn't say that. Granted. But everything that's said about the Son of Man is also true about the saints of the Most High. And take the vision of, or the dream of Pharaoh in Genesis. What he sees is 7 healthy cows coming out of the Nile. And then the 7 sick cows come out and they eat the fat cows. Now, that's not reality, okay? There's no cows. There's no literal cows that are being predicted. I know, it's crazy. What those symbolize are 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. So when there is an apocalyptic vision, which Daniel 7 absolutely is, what the person sees is not one-to-one with reality. So when Daniel sees the Son of Man, that doesn't mean that he's literally one man. It is just a symbol, a representation of humanity, and that is interpreted as the saints of the Most High. Now, you're muted, Jesse, but just to finish my point, because he has a point when he says, well, then what about when Jesus claims to be the Son of Man? Because Jesus is only one person. True, granted, fair. But I still think that Jesus is taking on that representation. He is basically saying, I represent the saints of the Most High. Or you could say, he's the first fruits of the saints of the Most High. Or you could say, and so there's many different interpretations you could take. Or you could say, he is fulfilling what the saints of the Most High are supposed to do, or the Son of Man. Like, he's doing all the same things that the Son of Man did in the vision. Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, so Tavish, I think something that could help, and I'm honestly going, you inspired me to look into this. When Jesus comes back on the clouds, there's 144,000 saints with him. So that could represent one people.
Mhm.
You, yeah.
The Jehovah Witnesses.
That's an. I mean, I heard Tovia Singer argue that it's Israel, that it's a people, and so like what you're saying aligns with him. So, and thinking about the 144,000 non-JWs, these are Israelites, yo.
So yeah, okay. I just want to get this in here
Wow.
because my view of that passage, specifically in Revelation, is what actually happens is he hears the 144,000, the 12 tribe, or 12,000 from the 12 tribes. That's what he hears. But then when he turns and he looks, what he actually sees is a multitude from every nation, tongue, tribe, etc. So I think again, what he's hearing in the vision is not the reality. It's when he actually turns and looks that's the reality. So and it happens again with he hears the lion of the tribe of Judah. So he hears this roaring lion, this warrior from the tribe of Judah. But then when he turns and he looks, he sees a lamb slain. So I think what it's doing is it's subverting the expectations. So what we expect, what we hear, what we expect is these warriors, these violent warriors that are going to conquer through force and violence. But then the reality is we're going to conquer through self-sacrifice, through witnessing, through love. So that's my view on those passages.
Let me comment real quick. This is actually kind of like the topic that Kanisha and I, when I first had a conversation with her, we were talking about Revelation, and I get really nervous talking about Revelation. Like if you see, I never really talk about Revelation on my channel. So Tavish, I see that, and I've acknowledged that too, where he hears the number, then he does see the great crowd. So I think I have like two interpretations, and again, I never talk about this just because I might be wrong, you know what I mean? And Revelation is just so difficult. I think that if there are two separate groups, we would see like Judah and Israel, like as we see with like Zechariah. Like in Amos chapter 9, we talk about the 10 tribe kingdom being dispersed among the nations. But then in Zechariah 8:23 or 26, it talks about 10 people in the nations coming and grabbing the corner of a Jew. So now we have Israel, the 10 tribes of the nations, because even, the New Testament, Paul, he even says we're grafted into Israel, right? But then we have Judah. So that could be two separate ones, like two separate sticks even, that's brought up in Ezekiel. But still, even with the sticks, it says that the sticks come together and they are one. So could that be one? Like Tavish, I've thought about that too. So like me personally, I think if they are two separate groups, I think the 144,000 represents the tribe of Judah, the two tribe kingdom. The great crowd that we see is representative of the 10 tribe kingdom. Or it could be we hear this and then we look and we see this great crowd, because when we keep reading Zechariah chapter 8, it says, "Come, let us go with you." So you see Judah and Israel walking side by side together to the mountain. So when John does see, he hears this number of the people coming, and then he sees this great crowd. You see the Judah and Israel walking together, So it's definitely up there too. And any JWs in the chat, Michael, I see you. We're just, not just having fun, not nothing cynical here, brother. Yeah. But all right.
So he has a big problem with that. Also, he goes to glorification. This is not an issue for us because we as Christians affirm that human beings will be sharing in the divine glory, will be receiving glorified bodies. But this is dramatically different from the type of glory that Jesus had with the Father before the world.
1 minute.
Oh yeah, see right there, like I called it earlier, special pleading. Well, this is a different glory.
Dramatically different.
Yeah. See the glory that they have there versus that glory. Those are two different glories. Well, yeah, it's two different glories because like we get one and Jesus gets one, but like it's still glory in that sense. It's not greater or less than, or it's just
It's the same kind of glory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of glory. I mean, I don't know how else you can put Jesus' statement when he says, "The glory you have given me, I have given to them." I mean, it's not even like the same kind of glory. Like it's just unqualified, unembarrassed. The glory that you have given me, the glory of which I will be glorified. Speaking in context, he already spoken of the glory of the Son of Man being lifted up. That the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. What is that hour? The hour of his crucifixion and subsequent vindication and exaltation. That's the same path that righteous disciples will go through. He says, "You will drink that cup as well. You'll be vindicated as and you're able to drink my cup, and you will." So that's the glory. It's the glory that accompanies suffering for righteousness, being vindicated, and then given honor and glory.
Amen, Jared.
Same glory.
Thank you, Josh.
If we're going to presuppose that these lexical definitions apply across the board, then he is committing what is known as the root fallacy, which is the very thing that linguists actually warn against, presupposing the same definition applies in all contexts. D.A. Carson, for example, writes, "The root fallacy presupposes that every word actual has a meaning bound within its shape and its components. In this view, meaning is determined by etymology, that is, by the root or the roots of the words." James Barr, one more quote, James Barr, "The meaning of a word is not controlled by its root." And this is one of the pinnacle arguments that Tavish is presenting. And a last one, Robert Caro, "The etymological fallacy is to assume that the origin of the word and its true meaning. And, no, the true meaning of the word is in its current usage. So the context determines everything." But for that, I will yield the rest of my time.
Yeah, you just
I
went
would
4
like to
seconds
say
over.
something.
Dude,
I'd like
what
to
a
say
terrible
something on
mod.
that. So,
And if
I
he-
personally,
seconds, I don't care.
sorry, I personally believe the root is important. I get the same pushback from ChatGPT. I believe it's important because at the root of every definition to like it exposes the root. Like when God makes a decision in the Old Testament, what's the word used? He's going to cut something out for you. You know, 70 years have been cut out for you. What does that mean? Well, it's been set apart for you, right? If it's been cut up, it's been cut off of something. So it's like showing a set apart. And if it's for you, that would be like a decision, something that's been decided or determined for a particular object, whatever it may be. The roots are important. Like the word malach comes from the Ugaritic word meaning to send. People hate me for saying it, but a malach is just a sent one. The only reason we think it's a messenger is because of the Greek word angelos, where it was translated as angelos in the Septuagint. And I didn't see the word apostolos anywhere in the Septuagint. And I honestly believe that a malach is closer to an apostle than to a angelos. Because what message did the angel of the Lord bring to Jerusalem when he slaughtered 185,000 angels? I mean, Assyrians. I didn't see no messenger. Why is he called a messenger? He didn't bring a message. All right, I'll chill.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to look at the root of a word, and he is right that the specific definition of how a word is being used does not necessarily reflect the root of that word.
No,
but there's a reason, like there's a logical flow of reasoning to how you get to that meaning. Words are not just made up. They have origins. Okay, just shout out to a random YouTube channel that has nothing to do with theology, Rob Words. It's a great channel. It's all about like etymology and the origins of certain words. And if you just watch enough of his videos, you see a pattern where there are historical, logical reasons that we call things what they are. Um, for example, a year. It actually comes from the same word as hour, like an hour and a year. It actually comes from the same root word. A month, that comes from the root word of moon, because every month has a different moon, or it's based off the moon cycle. So there's always a reason why words mean certain things. Like, yes, you can't always just go back to the root and say, oh, that's what the word means. But there's always a like logical progression of a change of meaning over time.
Well, okay, Tavish, I kind of disagree because it's not just we're looking at the root, like we're looking at the word, like the exact specific word that's being used. The concordances look at the root words. Okay, the lexicon looks at the exact word that's being used, and it shows where else in the scripture that the word is exactly used. Now, I understand where he is coming from because there are words in the lexicon that will give you like 4 definitions. That does happen, and you can't just depend on and pick what definition it is. It's important to have a linguist and look at the context, everything like that. But honestly, I feel like a lot of the words in the lexicons give you like one definition.
Yeah, I mean, look at a word like hypostasis or hypostasis. That has a lot of different usages or meanings,
right?
because it's kind of a vague term. Like because if you translate it literally, it would be a standing under. So sometimes it's translated as foundation, sometimes it's translated as confidence, sometimes it's translated as substance, but it's like the underlying structure. That's kind of its base meaning. And then, authors use that word to have different meanings that fit that root definition.
Yeah, I mean, you're using the lexicon to bring up the exact wording. You're not just depending on the root. So like he's calling you out for using the root, but that's not what the lexicon does. I don't know if you call him out for that, but I definitely would have.
So I have a problem with appealing to a lexicon for authority in regard to Bible citations. You have 4 definitions, and the Bible falls. The verse falls under definition 3. That means definition 1 doesn't apply. But in a lexicon, the top definition, the first definition, is the most prominent definition, like the closest to what the word actually means. But used in different ways, it gets away. It kind of becomes slang a little bit. It can express other ideas, but it's still got one root foundational meaning. I disagree with appealing to this verses under this definition because they're only getting that information based on how the word's translated. That's why they're placing it there. They're placing it based on translation. Like, how about this? Look at the word soul in a lexicon and see nefesh more specifically. It's got so many different definitions, but if you translate it as being, it works in every verse of the Bible. Every single verse, every context.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but I'm
sorry,
just saying that people are putting things in based on how they see it used in translated Bibles, but we're assuming that the translation is accurate for one, and 2, we're assuming that's the original meaning of the person that wrote the word. Maybe they weren't conveying that thought. Revelation 22 verse 6, for example. Note the parallel with Revelation 1:1. Who did God send to show the servants the revelation, things which must shortly come to pass? Jesus. So is he an angel or is he a messenger? It says messenger in Revelation 22:6. No, it says angel, and I'm sure it's probably going to be classified under an angel section for angelos in a lexicon, but really it's just a messenger. Jesus, he ain't an angel, not in the sense as English people understand angels. I yield.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say lexicons use translations, but they do use interpretation. Like they're looking at the word in the context and they are interpreting it. You know, the word that I showed, oida, how it's used in Mark 13:32, that is an interpretation. That's fair. But the lexicographers, they think that's what it means in that context, because that's pretty much the only definition that could work. But to Jesse's point, the base definition of oida means to know or to have perceived, really, because it's in the perfect tense. So it's to have seen, to have perceived, to have understood, and therefore to know. So, yeah, I mean, we can move on from this because we could talk about this all day.
So Tavish, you'll be able to have 504. As soon as you start speaking, you get 5 minutes and 4 seconds.
Wonderful. Okay. I'll really need those extra 4 seconds. All right. So apologies.
Hey, your buddies at my TikTok.
Father. Well, I tried to clear that up in my second point, where I'm not just claiming that. Because in the Gospels, Jesus is differentiated from God. And I thought it was interesting that you just said, if Jesus claimed, I am God, then the Jews would have understood him as saying, I am the Father, or something like that. Because I absolutely agree with that, because the Jews just thought that God was the Father, that there was no idea of divine plurality or two powers or anything like that. They just thought there's one God, the Father, Yahweh, which leads to Echad. Oh gosh, Echad does not mean compound unity. Okay, that's not the definition of the word. It means one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the number one. Now there are some poetic, figurative ways of using it, where you can say that, these two things are united, where, this, where man and woman become one flesh. But that doesn't mean that the word itself means compound unity. And there's nothing in the Shema which would suggest that there's any kind of compound unity or any kind of unification going on. You talk about, one cluster of grapes, that's echad. Well, it's still just one cluster. It's one cluster of grapes. There are many grapes. There's one cluster. That's not the Trinity.
Because that's partialism, Patrick. I should have said that, but
I see. I hate giving them that interpretation that it's a compound unity, because no lexicon supports that. And even in the Septuagint, it's the east is being used there as a numerical number, not a compound unity.
Yeah, I mean,
because like what they would say to you is, okay, Tavish, just as there's many clusters, but one piece, we believe in 3 persons in one God. So just as you confirm, Tavish, that there's many pieces within the one, we also believe there's many pieces within the one.
Again, I mean, again, that's just partialism, which is not what they believe. But because I think you have to acknowledge that echad, or even heis, is it? Yeah, it's epsilon iota, so it's heis or heis. I use the Erasmian pronunciation because that's what I learned. Anyway, irrelevant.
Oh yeah, Jesse corrected me too.
No, it's fine. Because there's a modern pronunciation, and then there's the Erasmian pronunciation. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Both of those words, they can be used in a figurative or metaphorical sense of two things being unified. I mean, that's what it means when Jesus and the Father are one. It means they're unified. But the word itself, the definition still is one, like the number one, 1, 2, 3. So I don't think I'm conceding anything by acknowledging that, because he has to actually prove from the Shema where there is some kind of unification, but there's obviously not, because it's just Yahweh, Yahweh our God, Yahweh one. So he has to actually try and show and prove that there's some kind of unification going on.
And it has to be a unification of one category, of two things in that category, making them one in that same category. That's what Trinitarianism is asserting. But there is no example that you can give of two things that exist in a category and then being united and becoming one of that category.
So, maybe a clue to understand the difference between Yaqid and Akkad is looking at Isaac. You offered up your only son, Yaqid, right? Actually, I think now that I'm thinking back, that's in Septuagint. It should be beloved in the Septuagint, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe Hebrews will help us understand it, because he uses monogenes. He could use monos if he wanted, but he chose monogenes, only of a kind, unique. So maybe that's the nuance between Akkad and Yaqid. It's not that only is Yaqid, but rather Yaqid expresses uniqueness. And Moses is putting a literal number on God's name. And that came up in my debate last night. Why do you use number 1? Because he wants you to know there's only one name. And all through one flesh. If you want to you want to bend that scripture, you better read it in its entirety, because they shall become one flesh. So you're telling me that the three persons had to become one God? That language right there, Jesus says, "Let not what God joined, man tear asunder." That's a bad paraphrase, but it's close. So that's definitely showing a separation and a coming together. But it's numbering the flesh. The passage you brought up, Jerry, it's numbering the people. There is one people. There could be two peoples. Can be plural to represent groups of peoples, multiple groups of peoples. So I don't know. I think like this. I'm just sharing my thoughts. Go ahead.
Because that would be partialism. Anyway, one nation is still one nation. Still means one. Echad means one. I'm glad that you agreed that about the appositional phrase in John 17:3. I think I'll save that for my cross-exam. Okay, in Mark 13:32, you said it's functional submission, as if Jesus is submitting his knowledge in some way in his humanity. But this is just two natures nonsense. Jesus either knows or he doesn't know. There's no in between. There's no, he's concealing his knowledge, or he's covering up his knowledge, and he doesn't really know, but he kind of knows. And it just gets into crazy stuff.
But Tavish, what if Jesus here is actually Two-Face from the Batman series? One is Harvey Dent and the other is Two-Face.
I got a better one. You guys ever hear infantile amnesia?
No.
You lose memory of everything before age 5 except for traumatic experiences. So everything God knew before he turned 5 years old, when he turned 5 years old, he forgot even the day.
We'll go over that more in the cross exam as well. Daniel 7 again. the Son of Man, that figure, because this is a vision, okay? This is an apocalyptic vision. So we have to remember that what Daniel is seeing is not one-to-one with reality. The four beasts that he sees, there's not actually going to be four beasts at any point. The four beasts are representing the four kingdoms. Or in Revelation, the dragon represents Satan. The woman represents either Israel or Mary. There's different views, but that's irrelevant. So what is seen in the vision does not correspond one-to-one with reality. So it doesn't matter that palak, or whatever word, is to a singular object when talking about the Son of Man, because the Son of Man is a representation of the saints. So it doesn't matter that that's a singular referent, because it's only later in the vision, or after the vision is done, when the angel's explaining what the vision means, that he says, all the same things about the saints as the Son of Man, because the Son of Man is a representation of the saints. He said, well, Jesus, he participated in creation. That's a divine prerogative. Well, Jesus never claims that. That's only applied to him, allegedly by John and Paul. Of course, I would disagree with that actually being him being involved in creation. But either way, Jesus never claims to participate in creation. He says creation was done by the Father.
Tavish, your time is up. It was at 4:59. You did have those extra 7 seconds. You sure you don't want them?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Now we begin.
All right, cool.
Oh wait, okay. I'm sorry. One thing in the TikTok chat, in the video. Oh wait, bring it back up.
Oh, sorry.
Examination as the affirmative.
Come on, man.
Sorry.
Okay. He said the faith logic. He says, I guess Jesus doesn't have two minds because Travish said so. Trinitarians don't believe that Jesus has two minds. What is this guy talking about?
Dude, I mean, I've met Trinitarians that do, though.
No, Jesus does have two minds. Minds are proper to natures. He has two natures.
Well, they don't say
That's
that.
They believe that. They believe that.
No, they don't think Jesus has two minds.
Dude, every Trinitarian
A
will tell you
human
something
mind
different.
and a divine mind. It's proper to the nature and their theology.
No, that's ridiculous. That's absurd.
Well, so is the Trinity, dude.
That's how they try to get away from Jesus didn't do the Father's will. He was doing his human
We'll
will.
commence your engagement with Tavish.
How do
I
I?
don't understand why people always try to stick an R in my name. Because that guy commented again and said, Travis and two natures, GG's. Like, bro, can you not read? Like, my name is right on the screen. And I don't even care because, like, people get my name wrong all the time. I'm, like, so used to it. It doesn't bother me, but I just think it's funny that a Trinitarian doesn't have reading comprehension. It's very telling.
Well, that was it for the rebuttals. Next episode, we're doing the cross axe, the fun part, dude. So excited for that. It's gonna be kind of a last minute thing because Tavish has like children and responsibilities and a job and stuff like that. So we have to depend
I have
on
to get up
Tavish.
at like 6 o'clock tomorrow, which is actually later than I usually get up. So
So
no worries.
perfect. Okay. Well, Jesse, Tavish, Jared, thanks guys for jumping on. And when I know something, Tavish will let you all know something. So I'll see y'all on the next one. Shalom, and thanks again for jumping on, guys.